And I'll be honest, it was shocking. It was a shocking article. Welcome back to the What's the Dill podcast, the place where we answer the most viral questions about Catholic life. I'm your host, Pete Dill, and this is episode 118. We got a great show for you today. We're going to talk about the quote-unquote fall of Christianity, a religion in the USA, an article about that. And then we're going to get into a little bit of Catholics and their seemingly lack of commitment and why people maybe have problems with that. So before we get into that, I just want to say thank you to everyone who watch, listen, share this podcast with anyone. It's wonderful to do this every week with you. Thank you for all the well wishes last week about our new news, about moving down to San Antonio. As you can see, I'm in a different spot here, different part of the studio, the headquarters here at What's the Dill. Still trying to find the best setup, but we are doing our best over here. So first question, it's a good one. It's a classic. I read this article that said we don't even need God in church. And this is because people don't want religion anymore. How can you not have God and religion together? So, separating God from church, not being religious. You hear that a lot nowadays. I'm spiritual, not religious. I believe in something, but not religion. Not religion. Organized religion is the source of so much bad in the world. We hear these stories, these narratives. So I went and I had to read the article, and I'll be honest, it was shocking. It was a shocking article. The whole point of it was basically there are these churches that are starting that don't even really use God as a core belief in their church. It's more about like self-improvement. Now, I do not want to speak negatively about people wanting to improve their life. That's a good thing. That's based in virtue, self-discipline, mastery of your senses and your body. That's a good thing. But you can't have a church without God. God built the church, and the whole point behind being a part of your religion is to get closer to God. And I think a lot of times in our society nowadays, self-improvement is so hot. Self-improvement, improving yourself, improving your station, it's popular. Every other video on social media is a person trying to get you to improve your life. Sleep more, take these vitamins, meditate in the morning, wake up at 5 a.m., join a run club. Your life's going to be incredible. Self-improvement's popular, and it's a good thing. But being Catholic, being a Christian, is not about self-improvement. Benefits of following God are self-improvement, but that's not the point. We have to steer clear from the idea that following God is at its core about us. We're not Catholic because it's about us. We're Catholic, we're Christian because it's about God. So you can't have a church without God. Like, you could have a men's group, you could have a support group, but you can't have a church without God. Now, the article was pretty crazy. The article was pretty radical. It was pretty radical. I'm going to read a couple pull quotes from it to kind of show some of like what these people were talking about. What makes this church, in quotes, C3 itself is the way on Sunday gatherings happen. It's forming a spiritual community around the idea that each individual uncovers their spiritual life for themselves, but they don't have to do it by themselves. Now, again, there's something under here that is not great. Now, improving yourself is good, but that line that says, uncovering their spiritual life for themselves, that's not what church is about. That's not religion. Our religion, following God, is about uncovering God, uncovering God's nature. And when we put the attention on ourselves, that's just self-worship. That's no longer about God. So we have to be careful about the idols of self, the idol of self. The idol of self, always about me, always about me, always about me. Hey, and if I'm doing better, then I can be good to other people. That's a good thing, right? Well, yes, but the true discipleship and following God is actually about putting ourselves aside, being humble, finding the virtue of humility, and saying, God, what do you want? It's actually not about me. It's about you. In our society, we have a very, very hard time with that because it's the lie of our time. The lie of our time nowadays, the lie of 21st century Western culture is we don't need God. Why would we need God? Look at all the things we have. Look at all the technology. Look at how much we can do on our own. We don't need God. I am self-made. I am a self-made man. We are self-made people. So why do we even need God in church? Can't church just be about us? Can't we just fellowship and chase after intellectual things? Those are good things. But we don't need God. Why would we need God? We can do so much on our own. This is the lie of our time. The lie of our time is that we don't need God. What we misinterpret is that life is about us and our gain, as opposed to God and becoming holy. But that could be really confusing, right? Well, how do you become holy? What is holy? What is sin? It's easier if I just improve myself, and then I can slowly, little by little, maybe start getting to God or start intellectualizing God. But the harsh reality of life is following God is about becoming holy. The ultimate goal of going to church and following God and being a Catholic and following religion is to become holy. We cannot miss the core message of that. Following God is not just to have some friends that you know that support you in life. Following God, being Catholic, is about becoming holy. And this article shows people's perspective on not needing God. So one of the guys who founded, the pastors that founded this church without God, or church without, Christianity, says this: the future of spirituality in our country are communities finding creative ways of leaving behind stodgy practices that no longer serve a society moving into a better place. We say, we've evolved beyond that. God, we don't need you anymore. We're going to somewhere better without you. We don't need you on the journey anymore. We've given up on you, God. We don't need you. We got better things we're going to do. But there is good news. The good news is that God has never given up on you. And when we have these experiences and know that God has never given up on us, we realize how much we need him. When things are great, we tend to think of ourselves as the reason. When things are bad, we tend to blame God for the bad things in our life. But when we take some of our emotions out of the highs and lows of our life and realize that God is constantly calling us to holiness and constantly drawing us closer to him, and he uses every part of our life to do that, you see how God is present in every part of your life, and you see how he's drawing you closer to holiness. And when we can let go a little bit and trust that God has great intentions for our lives and has a plan for our life, we see why we need him, because he's actually leading our life, and he's actually leading us to a better place. Not some idolatrous place that we think is a better place. God is actually leading us to a better life. So we need God. We cannot strip God out of our churches. We cannot strip God out of everything and still call it Christianity or still call it spirituality. God is calling us to holiness, and we need our church to help us along the way. So don't give up on the church. Don't give up on religion. Don't give up on God, because he's not giving up on you. Next question. Why do so many seemingly committed Catholics know so little about their faith? I'm a Catholic, curious Protestant going through RCIA next month. I've had some tough combos with some Catholic family members who had very different opinions about issues than the church. How can people that have lived their entire lives in the Catholic Church be so uneducated to what the church actually believes? For too long, I think we've gone to Sunday Mass and just thought this is what being Catholic is. This is what being Catholic is. Being Catholic is going to Sunday Mass, making sure you don't curse and, just treating people well. That's what being Catholic is. But there's so much more to what our Catholic faith is, and I think as Catholics we need to do a better job of sharing our faith. Now, the best way to evangelize, the best way to evangelize our faith is to talk about how God has done something in us. There's a lot of issues, a lot of theology, a lot of hot-button political issues that we love to talk about. Basically, all of social media and all of Catholic social media is just like hot-button issues and arguments about it. People are talking about hot-button issues, defending the faith or getting roasted for the faith. But what draws people into the faith is sharing about our experiences with Christ and sharing about how Christ has worked in us. So let's not be scared about sharing how Christ has worked in each one of us. What is our story? Do we have a story? Can we share about what God has done for us? Because how can we expect someone else to get excited about the faith or say, "Oh, I see what you mean," if we kind of can't get excited on our own? Now, trust me, I know this has been a real growth area for me. Sharing about my faith has been a real growth area for me. Now, you might say, "Hey, Pete, you've done 100 plus episodes of this podcast, and the first 30 were about your relationship, and the last 90 have been about the faith, and are you really nervous about sharing your faith?" And I'll be honest, yes, there's parts of honestly every single week I still have to fight a feeling of this doesn't matter. Why would I actually talk about my faith to people? I have to fight that feeling literally every week. And it's actually only because of you guys out there who say that this has some value that I kind of can be okay, yes, let's keep doing this. We need to keep doing this. It's making some sort of impact and God wants me to do this. Okay. But it's not easy to share about our faith. It's not easy to share about how Christ has made me better. To admit that I'm better now than I was before. That Christ has done something in me that's made me a better person. And I've made mistakes in the past. That's not easy. Sometimes we just want to be it's always been good. I've always been good. And, nothing really ever crazy's happened to me. I've always just kind of had the right way to go about life. I've never really needed God. And, he's done some good things for me. I've had some good stuff with him. But, that's kind of my story. Nothing really crazy. But to say, hey, Christ has worked in me so deeply to rid me of sin, to rid me of pride, to heal me of wounds, to help me not be angry, to help me not be, self-centered, to help me see his will and his way and life through his eyes more than through my eyes and what I want and how I can benefit out of everything in life. That's not super easy. But sharing our faith and how Christ has had how we've had an experience in Christ is often the best way to share about our faith. And if you don't know something, you don't know what the church says, you don't have to say anything. Go research it. Say, hey, let me get back to it. It's a great question. I'm going to go find out what the church says. The Catholic Church has answers. We have a lot of answers. We get answers for everything. The Catholic Church is not short on having an answer for everything. We literally have an answer for everything that happens. Don't let your pride get the best of you and say, oh, actually, the real answer is this. You don't have to. If you don't know the answer, don't say anything. Don't start putting someone down the wrong path. Say, I'm not sure. I don't know. I'd love to follow up with you. That's okay too. So as Catholics, we need to get better about knowing our faith more and at sharing about our faith and our personal experience with Christ more, because that's what's going to evangelize people, not telling people they have the wrong views in life. So this is a great question. It stings because I think Catholics get this reputation a lot of not knowing a lot about our faith. But we can do better. Let's continue to do better on that. All right, last question for the day. How do I get my 2-year-old to stop throwing fits in church? I have a young toddler who's become an absolute nightmare in church. For context, we just attend, the two of us, and they've become a ball of energy, and they start throwing fit after fit, even just a few minutes into the pews. If I take them to the cry room, it'll be 10 minutes before they start throwing a fit there. What should I do? I've tried everything. Juice, snacks, stuffed animal, but nothing seems to work. I think I talked about this a couple episodes ago, but yeah, kids are going to go nuts in church. It happens. It happens. There's literally probably nothing you can do. The only thing you can do is to keep bringing them. I think the devil wants our families to be divided and not go to church, and the fear of being judged is used against us. The fear of being humiliated is used against us. The fear of saying, well, I don't want, a crusty old lady to look at me with nasty eyes. And so maybe I just won't bring my kids to church. Maybe I just won't go to church this week. The devil is trying to use tactics of embarrassment and fear to stop us from going to mass. The best way to deal with this is to continue to bring your kid to church. Bring your kids to church. We do it. It's great family bonding time. It's a great thing to do. And I just feel so strongly about having the confidence to just bring crying kids to church. Kids cry. Who cares? If people are really going to make a stink about it, you should have all the freedom to stand up for yourself. If someone's going to say something to church, you stand up for yourself and say something back to them. That's my opinion. That's not the opinion of the church. I don't know. But, this is their father's house. This is their father's house. Kids belong in their father's house, and church is their father's house. So we need to bring our kids to church, even if they're crying, even if they're moping, even if they're thrown. We got to figure out the best ways to handle them. And maybe it's sitting in the back row. Maybe it's walking around with them. I don't know what it is. But the only thing I do know is to not be scared. It's okay to be scared to bring your kids to church, but to keep doing it and to not let yourself get bested by fear of judgment. And then I think one thing that's also worked for us, kind of like a practical tip, is to sit near other families who have kids. That kind of tends to be the easiest ways. That when there's a bunch of kids moping and crying and running, it can be easier because that's the family section. It was kind of that's the wild kid section. And yeah, it's okay. I'm very pro. It's okay. Kids are crying at church. Kids are making them. They're kids. They're children. They do it everywhere. They're not intentionally trying to make it make a mess or make nuisance. It's just what kids do. It's what babies do. And I think there's also opportunities to get the kids to know the faith and get to know the faith even at a very, very young age. Even though it maybe seems like it's impossible to actually pass on the faith to them at that younger age, I think there's a lot of grace that comes with bringing them consistently, talking about the faith, even just for 1 minute to them at church. So, sister, keep bringing that crazy child to church. It's okay. Don't let anybody tell you it's not okay. It's very okay. Even if they're crying and throwing their fruit snacks everywhere, it's actually okay. So that's going to be it for me today. I appreciate you all so much. Thank you for watching, listening. Make sure you share, subscribe. Reach out to me. Let me know any questions you want to hear answered or talked about. I'd love to have a conversation with you. Let's talk offline, text, email, whatever. I'm here for you. Let me know anything. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you all again so much. Hope you all have a great week. Peace. Bye.